Welcome back to the channel The Coin Empire. Today we are diving into one of the most fascinating and mysterious stories in the world of coin collecting and hidden treasure in pocket change, a story that sounds almost impossible but continues to excite collectors, historians, and everyday people who search through their coins hoping to find something extraordinary. And that story is about a 1979 $quarter coin that some experts and collectors believe could be worth as much as $85 million because of a rare combination of minting errors, unusual production circumstances, and the incredible possibilities that sometimes occur inside a mint facility when machines, dies, and metal planchets interact in unexpected ways. And while most people see a quarter as simply 25 cents used for vending machines, parking meters, or small purchases, the truth is that certain quarters have become legendary in the numismatic community because rare mistakes can transform an ordinary coin into something historically important and financially astonishing, and the 1979 $quarter is one of those coins that has sparked enormous curiosity because the late 1970s were a time when the mint was producing massive numbers of coins for circulation, which meant machines were running constantly, dies were being replaced frequently, and the chances for unusual minting anomalies were much higher than many people realize. And when a coin is struck during a moment when something goes slightly wrong in the minting process, the result can be a coin that is dramatically different from every other coin produced that year, and those differences are exactly what collectors search for because rarity, uniqueness, and identifiable minting mistakes are the ingredients that can push a coin's value far beyond its face value, sometimes into the millions of dollars. And the legendary 1979 quarter that collectors talk about is believed to possess a rare combination of several possible mint errors that together could make it one of the most valuable coins ever discovered in modern circulation, and one of the first possibilities that experts discuss is the chance that a small number of quarters were accidentally struck on the wrong metal planchet, because inside a mint facility different denominations are produced using different metal discs called planchets. And if a quarter design is accidentally struck on a planchet meant for another coin, the weight, thickness, and color of the coin can become completely unusual, and collectors have seen examples of quarters struck on nickel planchets, penny planchets, or even foreign coin planchets that were accidentally mixed into the production line, and when such an event occurs the resulting coin becomes a unique hybrid that should never have existed. And in the case of the mysterious 1979 quarter, rumors have circulated among collectors that at least one example may have been struck on an experimental or transitional planchet that was never meant for public circulation, possibly created during testing phases when the mint was experimenting with different metal compositions or adjusting production equipment. And coins struck on experimental metals are incredibly valuable because they represent a moment in mint history that was never officially released to the public. And if a single example escaped into circulation, its rarity could make it worth tens of millions of dollars to collectors and investors who specialize in unique mint errors. But the metal planchet is only one possible explanation for the extraordinary value that has been associated with certain 1979 quarters, because another major possibility involves the dies used to strike the coin's design, and dies are the engraved metal tools that imprint the images and lettering onto coins during the striking process. And sometimes a die is accidentally prepared incorrectly or becomes damaged in a way that produces dramatic visual changes on the coins it strikes. And one of the most famous die-related errors is the double die error, where the design appears doubled because the die received two misaligned impressions during its preparation, creating a ghost-like duplication of letters, numbers, or images on the coin. And collectors have discovered double die coins that are worth thousands or even millions of dollars depending on their rarity and clarity. And if a 1979 quarter were discovered with an extreme doubled die error affecting the date, the lettering, or the portrait design, it could become one of the most desirable era coins ever found from that era, especially if the doubling is dramatic enough to be easily seen with the naked eye, because collectors value errors that are both rare and visually obvious, making them easier to authenticate and more exciting to display. And beyond doubled dies, another die-related mistake that could create a coin of enormous value is the use of a wrong designed die entirely, which can happen when dies from different denominations or years are accidentally installed in the press. And although such mistakes are extremely rare, they have happened before in mint history, producing coins that carry design elements that were never meant to appear together. And if a 1979 quarter were struck using a mismatched die from another year or denomination, the resulting coin would be a historical anomaly that collectors would compete fiercely to own, potentially driving its price to astonishing levels in auctions, especially if the coin were preserved in excellent condition, because condition plays a massive role in determining the final value of any collectible coin, and coins that remain in mint state condition without heavy scratches or wear are far more valuable than coins that have been heavily circulated for decades. And the possibility that a rare 1979 era quarter could have been saved early by a sharp-eyed collector adds another layer of excitement to the story, because if such a coin exists and remains in pristine condition, it would represent the perfect combination of rarity, historical interest, and visual uniqueness. And that combination is exactly what wealthy collectors and museums seek when they are willing to pay extraordinary sums for rare coins. But the mystery does not stop there, because another error type that could contribute to the legendary value of a 1979 quarter is the off-center strike, which occurs when the coin blank is not properly aligned with the dies during the striking process, causing part of the design to be missing and leaving a blank crescent-shaped area on the coin. And off-center coins can vary from slightly misaligned to extremely dramatic errors where half the coin is blank and the remaining design is squeezed into a smaller area. And the more dramatic and unusual the misalignment is, the more collectors tend to value the coin, particularly when the date remains visible, because the date allows collectors to identify the year of the error. And if a 1979 quarter were struck significantly off-center while still displaying the date and mint mark clearly, it could become a highly desirable piece in the error coin market, especially if combined with another rare feature such as an unusual planchet or die mistake. And these combinations of errors are what truly excite collectors, because they are far rarer than single isolated mistakes, and when multiple errors appear on the same coin, the odds of that event happening during production become astronomically low, which dramatically increases the coin's rarity and potential value. And some collectors believe that the legendary 1979 quarter could represent such a combination error coin where 2 or 3 different minting mistakes occurred simultaneously during the strike, creating a one-of-a-kind artifact of minting history. And when collectors begin imagining the possibilities of a coin like that, the estimated value can skyrocket into the millions, because uniqueness is the ultimate driver of value in numismatics, and the idea that only one such coin may exist anywhere in the world is what fuels the stories of an $85,001,979 quarter hiding somewhere in circulation or in a forgotten coin jar. And history has shown that incredible discoveries can happen decades after a coin was minted, because many people simply do not examine their coins closely, allowing rare pieces to remain unnoticed for years until a collector finally recognizes something unusual about the design, the weight, the color, or the alignment of the coin, and when that moment of discovery happens, it can completely change the life of the person who finds it, turning a simple coin into an object of global attention among collectors and auction houses. And another fascinating possibility that has been discussed regarding certain 1979 quarters is the chance that a proof die may have accidentally been used to strike coins intended for regular circulation, and proof dies are specially polished dies used to create high-quality coins for collectors, producing sharp details and mirror-like backgrounds that are very different from normal circulation coins. Next, 1988 $quarter dollar coin. Today we are exploring one of the most fascinating stories in the world of coin collecting, a story that proves how an ordinary piece of pocket change can transform into a treasure worth unimaginable money, and that story centers around the mysterious 1988 $quarter dollar. A coin that at first glance appears completely normal, but under the right circumstances and with the right combination of rare minting errors and production mistakes could be worth as much as $80 million to collectors and investors who understand the hidden history behind unusual coins, because in the world of numismatics the smallest production error can turn a coin that was meant to circulate quietly in everyday transactions into a legendary collectible. And the year 1988 is especially interesting because the United States Mint was producing billions of coins during that era, operating powerful presses day and night to keep up with the demand for circulating currency, and whenever production numbers are that massive, the chances of something unusual happening inside the mint become much greater, and while the mint has strict quality control procedures, there have always been moments when tiny errors slip through unnoticed, allowing rare and fascinating coins to escape into circulation where they may remain hidden for years before collectors finally discover them. And the idea that a 1988 P quarter could be worth $80 million might sound unbelievable to someone who simply sees a quarter as 25 cents, but collectors know that rarity, uniqueness, and the story behind a coin are the real factors that determine value, and when those elements come together in the form of a dramatic mint era, the price collectors are willing to pay can reach astonishing heights. And one of the most discussed possibilities surrounding the legendary 1988 P quarter involves the chance that some coins were struck using the wrong reverse design die, something that has actually happened before in mint history when dies from different years were accidentally installed in production presses. And in the late 1980s, the mint was transitioning between different reverse hub designs for the quarter, which created the possibility that an older reverse design could have been paired with a newer obverse die by mistake, creating what collectors call a transitional error coin. And transitional errors are incredibly valuable because they represent a moment when the mint was shifting from one design to another and a few coins were accidentally struck using the wrong combination of dies. And if a 1988 P quarter were discovered with a reverse design that belonged to another year entirely, it would immediately become one of the most important modern era coins ever found, especially if only a handful were produced before the mistake was noticed and corrected. And collectors are particularly fascinated by transitional coins because they reveal hidden moments of mint history that were never meant to be seen by the public, and the possibility that a rare 1988 P transitional quarter might still exist somewhere in circulation or in a forgotten coin collection is exactly the kind of mystery that fuels the excitement of coin hunting. But the reverse design confusion is only one potential explanation for how a 1988 P quarter could become so valuable. Because another extraordinary possibility involves the coin being struck on the wrong planchet entirely, and inside a mint facility, different denominations are manufactured using different metal discs known as planchets, each with a specific size, thickness, and metal composition. And when a planchet meant for one denomination accidentally enters the press used for another denomination, the resulting coin becomes an error piece that should never have existed, and collectors have discovered quarters struck on nickel planchets, penny planchets, and even foreign coin blanks that somehow entered the production line, creating coins with unusual weights, colors, and dimensions. And if a 1988 P quarter were struck on a planchet meant for another coin, the difference might be obvious to a trained collector who notices the unusual color or weight immediately. And such coins are extremely rare because mint employees carefully separate planchets by denomination. But mistakes can still happen when production lines are operating at high speed, and if a unique example of a wrong planchet 1988 P quarter were discovered today, its rarity alone could push its value into the millions, especially if the coin also displayed other dramatic errors that made it stand out even more. And collectors often say that the most valuable coins are those that combine multiple unusual characteristics at once, because the probability of 2 or 3 errors occurring simultaneously during the minting process becomes incredibly small, making the surviving coin a truly unique artifact of production history. And another fascinating error possibility for the 1988 P quarter involves doubled dies, which occur during the die manufacturing process when the design hub impresses the die more than once at slightly different angles, resulting in doubled lettering, numbers, or design elements on the coins that the die eventually strikes. And doubled die errors are some of the most famous and sought-after mistakes in numismatics because they are created during the earliest stages of die preparation and therefore appear consistently on every coin struck by that particular die, meaning multiple examples can exist but they remain extremely rare compared to normal coins. And if a dramatic doubled die were discovered on a 1988 P quarter affecting the date, the word liberty, the motto "In God We Trust," or even the details of the eagle on the reverse side, collectors would immediately recognize it as a major variety, and the clearer and more dramatic the doubling is, the more desirable the coin becomes, because collectors appreciate errors that are easy to identify without magnification. And when such a coin appears in pristine mint state condition, its value can skyrocket at auction as collectors compete to own one of the finest known examples, and this competitive bidding environment is exactly how certain coins achieve prices that seem unbelievable to outsiders. Because collectors are not just purchasing a coin but also the rarity, the story, and the prestige associated with owning a unique piece of mint history. And another error that could contribute to the extraordinary value of a 1988 P-quarter is the off-center strike, which occurs when the planchet is not properly aligned with the dies during the striking process, resulting in part of the design being missing and leaving a curved blank area on the coin. And off-center errors can vary widely in severity, from minor misalignments to dramatic strikes where more than half the design is missing, and collectors particularly value off-center coins when the date and mint mark remain visible because those details confirm the year and origin of the coin, and if a dramatic off-center 1988 P-quarter were discovered with a clear date and strong remaining design, it could become a highly prized error coin, especially if it also exhibited unusual characteristics such as a broad strike, clipped planchet, or die crack. And broad strike errors occur when the retaining collar that normally shapes the coin's edge fails to hold the planchet during the strike, allowing the metal to spread outward and create a coin that appears wider and flatter than normal. And clipped planchet errors occur earlier in the production process when the metal strip used to punch out planchets overlaps slightly, causing a curved piece to be missing from the finished blank before it is struck. And when such a clipped planchet enters the striking press, the resulting coin displays a distinctive missing section that collectors can easily identify. And these types of mechanical errors reveal the complex industrial processes behind coin production, reminding collectors that every coin begins its life as raw metal passing through powerful machines that must operate perfectly thousands of times per minute. And whenever those machines experience even a tiny malfunction, the resulting coin can become something extraordinary. And another remarkable possibility connected to the legendary value of the 1988 P-quarter is the chance that a proof die may have been accidentally used to strike circulation coins, because proof coins are normally produced using specially polished dies and carefully prepared planchets to create coins with mirror-like surfaces and extremely sharp details intended for collectors rather than circulation. And if a proof die were mistakenly installed in a regular production press, the resulting coins might display unusually reflective surfaces and crisp design elements unlike ordinary quarters, making them stand out to observant collectors who recognize that something about the coin looks different, and such a mistake would likely be corrected quickly once mint technicians noticed it, meaning only a very small number of coins could have been produced before the die was replaced, and that limited production would create the kind of rarity that collectors dream about discovering. Because the fewer examples that exist, the greater the competition becomes among collectors seeking to add that coin to their collections. Next, 1990 D quarter dollar coin. Today's story might completely change the way you look at the quarter sitting in your pocket, because we are diving into one of the most fascinating possibilities in modern coin collecting, the mysterious and extremely valuable 1990 D Washington quarter that some collectors believe could be worth as much as $78 million due to a combination of rare minting errors, unusual production circumstances, and the incredible power of collector demand. And while most people see a simple 25-cent coin, experienced collectors know that sometimes a tiny mistake made during the minting process can turn an ordinary coin into a legendary treasure that people all over the world search for. And the 1990 D quarter is a perfect example of how this can happen, because during the year 1990 millions of Washington quarters were struck at the Denver Mint, known by the small D mint mark located on the obverse of the coin just to the right of George Washington's ponytail. And while the vast majority of these coins entered circulation as perfectly normal currency, there have been discussions among collectors about several extremely rare varieties and error possibilities that could dramatically increase the value of a single coin if discovered in pristine condition or with a unique combination of mint mistakes. And to understand how such a coin could ever reach a theoretical value of $78 million, we first have to understand how coins are produced at the United States Mint and how small mechanical issues can lead to dramatic differences in the final coin, because every coin begins with a blank piece of metal called a planchet, which is fed into a press where dies strike the design onto both sides with enormous pressure, and if anything goes slightly wrong during this process, the coin can come out with errors such as double strikes, off-center designs, clipped planchets, die cracks, die breaks, misaligned dies, or even the use of the wrong planchet altogether, and sometimes these errors happen only a few times before the problem is discovered and corrected, which means only a handful of coins might exist with that particular mistake, and rarity combined with strong collector interest is what drives prices in the numismatic world to astonishing heights. And when collectors begin to speculate about a coin that might represent a one-of-a-kind error or a unique transitional variety, the potential value can skyrocket to unbelievable levels, and this is where the legend of the 1990 D-quarter begins to grow, because certain collectors have reported unusual examples showing signs of dramatic die deterioration, strong doubling in the lettering, and other unusual strike characteristics that suggest the possibility of rare die varieties that were never widely documented. And when collectors start imagining the possibility that one undiscovered coin could combine multiple rare features such as a dramatic doubled die, an off-metal strike, and a near-perfect mint-state grade, the theoretical value becomes enormous, because collectors are not just paying for the metal itself but for the rarity, history, and the story behind the coin. And one of the most talked about possibilities for the 1990 D-quarter involves the idea of a dramatic double die error where the design elements appear doubled due to a misalignment during the die creation process. And if such a doubled die were discovered with extremely strong and visible doubling on the words Liberty, Indiana God We Trust, or the date 1990, it could instantly become one of the most famous modern coin errors in American numismatics, and collectors would compete fiercely to own it because doubled die coins have historically commanded extremely high prices when the doubling is bold and easily visible to the naked eye. And another possibility that excites collectors is the chance that a 1990 D-quarter might have been struck on the wrong type of planchet, such as a nickel planchet or even a foreign coin blank that accidentally entered the production line, because the United States Mint produces millions of coins, and sometimes planchets intended for other denominations or even experimental pieces can accidentally be fed into the press, creating a coin that looks like a Washington quarter but has the weight, color, or composition of a completely different coin. And when such dramatic errors occur, they become instant rarities because only a few can exist before the problem is discovered and corrected by mint workers. And if a 1990 D-quarter were ever found struck on a completely different metal composition with a clear Denver mint mark and a sharp strike, collectors might consider it one of the most extraordinary mint errors ever discovered. And when a coin is both unique and historically significant, collectors with deep pockets sometimes compete in auctions, pushing prices to astonishing heights. And another possible factor that could contribute to an extremely high value is the condition of the coin, because grading plays a crucial role in determining how valuable a coin becomes, and coins that remain in perfect or near perfect condition, known as mint state 68, 69, or even the extremely rare mint state 70, are incredibly desirable because most coins that circulate in everyday transactions quickly accumulate scratches, wear, and damage. And finding a coin that survived decades without a single visible flaw is extremely difficult. And if a rare era coin from the Denver Mint in 1990 were discovered in a flawless grade, it would represent the ultimate prize for collectors who pursue perfection, and the combination of a dramatic mint error with a perfect grade could easily push the value of a coin into the millions, especially if collectors believed that it was the finest known example in existence. And another fascinating possibility involves die clashes, which occur when the dies strike each other without a planchet between them, leaving faint mirror images of design elements on the surface of subsequent coins. And if a severe die clash occurred on the 1990 D-quarter, leaving ghost-like impressions of the reverse design on the obverse or vice versa, it could create an unusual visual effect that collectors would find extremely appealing and historically interesting. And sometimes these dramatic die clashes are discovered years later when sharp-eyed collectors carefully examine coins under magnification and realize they are seeing something that only appears on a handful of examples. And the excitement of discovering a previously unknown variety is one of the reasons coin collecting remains such a thrilling hobby, because every coin has the potential to reveal a new story hidden in plain sight. And the 1990 D-quarter also holds interest because it was produced during a time when mint technology was evolving and production numbers were extremely high, which increases the chance that unusual mechanical issues might have occurred briefly during the manufacturing process. And when millions upon millions of coins are struck, even a tiny fraction of errors can create rare varieties that collectors search for decades later, and some collectors believe that undiscovered varieties still exist in rolls of coins stored in banks, old piggy banks in family homes, or forgotten jars sitting on shelves waiting for someone curious enough to examine them closely, and the idea that a life-changing coin might still be hiding in everyday circulation is what keeps collectors searching through pocket change, bank rolls, and estate collections hoping to make the next great discovery. And when rumors circulate about a coin potentially worth tens of millions of dollars, the excitement spreads rapidly across the collecting community, inspiring people to check their coins more carefully than ever before. And the Washington Quarter series itself has always been extremely popular among collectors because it has been produced for decades and offers a wide range of varieties, mint marks, and historical moments captured in metal, and the design created by sculptor John Flanagan featuring the profile of George Washington has become one of the most recognizable images in American coinage history. And the reverse with the heraldic eagle holding arrows and an olive branch symbolizes strength and peace, which adds a layer of historical meaning to the coin beyond its monetary value. And when collectors combine this historical significance with the thrill of discovering rare mint errors, the result is a passionate community constantly searching for the next legendary coin. And the story of the 1990 D quarter, imagined to be worth $78 million, represents the ultimate dream scenario where rarity, condition, error characteristics, and collector demand converge to create a coin that transcends ordinary value and becomes a symbol of numismatic legend. And while such extreme values are theoretical and depend on extraordinary circumstances, the history of coin collecting has shown that surprising discoveries can and do happen, because many famous rare coins were once ordinary pieces of change that someone noticed looked slightly unusual, and that moment of curiosity led to further study, which eventually revealed a coin of immense rarity and importance. Last 1977 $quarter coin. Today we are diving into one of the most mysterious and exciting stories in the world of coin collecting, the legendary 1977 Washington quarter that some collectors believe could reach a mind-blowing value of $75 million because of rare minting errors, unusual production mistakes, and the incredible possibilities that can occur during the coin manufacturing process. And while millions of people see the 1977 quarter as nothing more than an ordinary 25-cent coin used for everyday purchases, collectors and numismatists know that sometimes the smallest detail can transform a common coin into a historic rarity worth a fortune. And the story begins in the year 1977, when the United States Mint was producing enormous numbers of Washington quarters to keep up with the demand for circulating currency across the country, with coins being struck at multiple facilities, including the Philadelphia Mint, which produced coins without a mint mark, and the Denver Mint, which produced coins carrying the small letter D mint mark on the obverse side of the coin. And these quarters featured the classic design that had been used since 1932, with the profile of George Washington on the front and the heraldic eagle with spread wings holding arrows and an olive branch on the reverse. A design that symbolizes the balance between strength and peace and has become one of the most recognized images in American coinage history. But while the majority of the 1977 quarters were struck correctly and entered circulation without any unusual characteristics, the reality of high-speed coin production is that mistakes sometimes happen, and those mistakes can create some of the most valuable coins in the entire collecting world. Because when millions of coins are struck each day, even a small mechanical error or a tiny misalignment in the dies can create coins with unusual features that only appear on a handful of pieces before the mint workers notice the problem and correct it. And this is exactly where the legend of the $75,001,977 quarter begins to take shape, because collectors have long discussed the possibility that certain rare error varieties may exist within the 1977 quarter series that could dramatically increase the value of a single coin if discovered in extraordinary condition. One of the most famous possibilities involves the idea of a dramatic double die error, which occurs when the die used to strike the coin receives a doubled impression during its creation process, causing the final coin struck with that die to display noticeable doubling in the design elements. And if a 1977 quarter were discovered with extremely bold doubling on the words Liberty, Indiana God We Trust, or even the date itself, the coin could instantly become a major discovery in the world of modern numismatics. Because collectors place a huge premium on doubled die coins, especially when the doubling is strong enough to be seen without magnification, and the rarer the doubling and the fewer coins that exist with that feature, the more valuable the coin becomes. And another major factor that could contribute to the incredible value of a 1977 quarter is the possibility of an off-metal strike, which occurs when a coin is struck on a planchet that was never intended for that denomination, because inside the mint different planchets are manufactured for pennies, nickels, dimes, quarters, and other coins, and occasionally a planchet intended for another denomination, or even a foreign coin blank can accidentally make its way into the press that is striking quarters, resulting in a coin that has the design of a quarter but the size, color, weight, or composition of an entirely different coin. And such dramatic mint errors are extremely rare because mint workers quickly detect irregularities in the production process. But if even a few coins escape into circulation, they instantly become prized collectibles that collectors are willing to pay enormous sums to obtain. And imagine the discovery of a 1977 quarter struck on a copper penny planchet or a nickel planchet showing the full Washington design but with a completely different metallic appearance. Such a coin would capture worldwide attention among collectors and historians because it would represent a remarkable minting mistake and a unique piece of United States mint history. And another possible explanation for the legendary value of a 1977 quarter could involve a spectacular off-center strike where the planchet was not properly aligned between the dies during the striking process, resulting in a coin where part of the design is missing and a blank crescent-shaped area appears along the edge. And while small off-center errors are somewhat common in coin collecting, a dramatic off-center strike where the date and mint mark remain visible while a large portion of the coin is blank can become extremely valuable, especially if the coin is preserved in near perfect condition, because collectors appreciate dramatic visual errors that clearly show how something unusual happened during the minting process. And the more dramatic and unique the error, the more interest it generates among serious collectors who compete to own rare pieces of mint history. And in addition to these possibilities, the 1977 quarter could also become incredibly valuable if it were discovered with a major die break or die crack that created a raised line or unusual shape on the surface of the coin. Because over time the dies used to strike coins experience tremendous pressure and wear, and eventually they can develop cracks or even break partially, which then leaves unusual marks on the coins struck afterward. And some die breaks become so dramatic that they create raised lumps or unusual formations on the coin's surface that collectors sometimes nickname with creative names based on their shapes. And when a major die break occurs late in the life of a die, it may produce only a handful of coins before the die is replaced, which means those coins instantly become rare collectibles with unique characteristics. And the 1977 quarter is particularly interesting because it was produced during an era when coin demand was extremely high and the minting presses were operating continuously, which increases the possibility that unusual mechanical issues might have occurred briefly before being corrected. And when collectors imagine the possibility that a single 1977 quarter might combine multiple rare characteristics such as a dramatic double die, a severe die break, and an off-metal strike all on one coin, the theoretical value becomes almost unimaginable because a coin with such a combination could be completely unique in the world. And in the collecting community, the idea of a one-of-a-kind coin always creates excitement because when something truly unique appears at auction, wealthy collectors and museums may compete intensely to acquire it, pushing the final price far beyond what most people would ever expect for a small piece of metal that originally had a face value of just 25 cents. And another factor that can dramatically influence the value of a rare coin is its condition, which is measured using a grading scale that ranges from heavily worn coins to perfect mint state examples that appear exactly as they did when they left the mint decades ago, and coins that achieve extremely high grades such as mint state 68, 69, or the incredibly rare mint state 70 are considered exceptional because even the smallest imperfection can prevent a coin from reaching those top levels of preservation. And if a rare era 1977 quarter were discovered in a nearly flawless condition, it would become even more valuable because collectors are always searching for the finest known example of any rare coin variety. And the idea that a perfect or nearly perfect error coin from 1977 might still exist somewhere in a collection, a bankroll, or even a jar of spare change adds an element of excitement to the hobby that keeps collectors searching year after year, hoping to make a discovery that could change their lives forever. And the Washington Quarter Series itself has always attracted passionate collectors because it represents decades of American history captured in metal, with billions of coins produced, yet countless varieties and subtle differences waiting to be discovered by careful observers. And sometimes the most important discoveries happen when someone notices a tiny detail that others overlook, such as a slight doubling in the lettering or an unusual texture in the metal that reveals a hidden minting error. And once such a discovery is confirmed by experts in grading services, the coin can become famous almost overnight, with collectors around the world discussing its features and competing to own it. And the legend of the $75,001,977 quarter continues to inspire curiosity, because it represents the ultimate dream scenario where rarity, mystery, historical significance, and collector demand all combine to create a coin that transcends its humble origins and becomes a symbol of the incredible possibilities hidden within everyday money. And whether such a coin is already sitting quietly in a private collection or still waiting to be discovered in circulation, the possibility alone is enough to encourage people everywhere to examine their coins more closely.